They didn't know in advance. Hey, Mina, how you doing?
Oh, boss.
What?
The things I've heard in the city the past 3 days.
Huh? Oh no, good or bad?
So, where do I even start?
Oh no.
Where
Oh no.
do I start with sanitation, I guess?
Sure.
All right. So I did some sanitation runs around 15. I was robbed on 4 of those 15 runs. And I was pretty much told by many people who used to run sanitation or who do run sanitation that if you don't have a war vehicle with you,
What?
you are going to get robbed. And most of them just, oh, boss, I got robbed 4 times. 4 times out of 15.
Oh, and then people wonder why there's no materials.
And
how about they get the fresh sub?
They don't want to do it anymore. They say like you're just expected to just be robbed.
No.
It's so bad. I gotta tell you, I wanted to call out some of the people who robbed me because they come at me completely blacked out, wearing masks, and they say, "Put your hands up," rob me, and then run off. And I was about to yell at them that they're because I was really pissed, and I was like, "Where you stupid?"
Yeah, I will never understand people that black out to rob shit. Like it is the most like it is the most like self-demeaning form of robbery. Like imagine like, I don't know, you're in a gang, right? Should you not be proud of that? But no, it's tail between the legs. Yeah.
So I mean I've taken down comments from everyone that I've I've got so many comments from people in the city, so many complaints, so many thoughts. To filter through them all is a task. I can completely brain dump you with just everything, but I am organizing it. I just felt like I needed to get back to you sooner than later because organizing all these thoughts is quite a thing.
Money, thank you the prime sub.
I'd say materials it's crying right now. People are crying for materials.
Yeah.
The mechanic shops they couldn't be more on their hands and knees begging for materials. They couldn't be anywhere because like from what I've heard from everyone is that gangs run sanitation and gangs do not give back obviously to the rest of the city. Gangs only care about themselves. And so the issue is they have a great need and their need is so much that they will, they rob anyone and everyone. And since they know what hours of operation the sanitation trucks run, they coordinate their times to jump sanitation runners. And why the gangs do this is because sanitation is the best source of materials. I've spoken to gangs about their alternative methods of getting materials, and it is terrible. There is no way they would want to do that. Because chopping cars gives you about 10 materials apparently per car. I didn't test this. Yeah, that's pretty bad.
That's really unfortunate. This reminds me of like back in the day, right? Where you know, I remember the conversation where it's like, hey, we got to make sure these guys are paid well. That's going to make people want to do it, which means more materials for everybody. But if you choke out like the 80%, then what do don't be surprised when there's no fucking mats.
Right. And I'm sure you already know that the employer at the sanitation does not like a lot of the other employers around the city.
Mm,
And this further kind of pushes people away from doing sanitation
yeah.
because he's kind of pissy with too many of the other employers. And since sanitation really sucks because of all the robbing and people will spend hours doing it and then just get robbed, they get annoyed and they don't want to do that job anymore, which kind of further pushes people
Yeah.
away from doing sanitation. And then the need for materials gets higher because now people want to pay more because they are desperate for materials, which means that the robbing gets worse.
Yeah. Fuck. Okay.
And so your question that you asked me, if like, you know, raising the amount of materials, I don't know if that's gonna solve the issue, because it just seems like right now the problem is that the robbing is keeping people from getting materials in the city. And the more we put in things in place in the city that will require more materials, the worse is
Yeah.
it. Like this is a market that's just completely unsustainable from my perspective.
Yeah. Just hearing what you're saying, it all clicks. What's wrong? I'm thinking like, I'm wondering if I could. One option I've got is a state sanitation union, right? Where they are state doing material for the state. The state purchases the material directly and then auctions it off. And that those state workers get extra protection by law enforcement. But even then, the reality is that would just create a lot of animosity in my direction, right? So I think materials are fucked and we just wipe our hands of it.
I really hate that this can't be fixed,
No,
because I
it's
spoke with so
impossible.
many people. Yeah, it sounds it's impossible. It's really frustrating. I've only spoken to people who are just upset. There's also I don't know if you know about the sewers, but there are materials down in the sewers, or trash rather, but apparently it's a felony trespassing to go down there to get those things. So people don't want to go down there and clean that up. I mean, I've just got lists and lists of things of people talking about just the struggles of getting materials. I don't know. I don't know. We need like a huge act of God to try and do something about this.
What are you saying about the sewers?
So I was speaking to a couple of people who were talking about ways to get materials, and they suggested having a recycle machine or a compactor of some sort down in the sewers, and
That might be like better.
that would, well, yeah. And I thought of the idea that maybe, you know, people who have worked really hard with the sanitation system, because apparently according to some people it's a they've been arrested for felony trespassing.
It is legal now. It used to be illegal. Yeah. I don't have any plans to make it illegal. I think like unless there's like like, to me it's like self-regulating, because if you go in the sewers, there is no law enforcement. And if there is no law enforcement, then it's kind of like a no man's zone, right? You're kind of taking the risk of whatever happens down there.
I'll double check, because the person I talked to the two people I talked to said that they got arrested for leaving the sewers.
That was true up until the new legislation. So yeah, so the old anti-sewer laws got removed.
Lovely.
There's something else to keep in mind. People were losing their gun licenses for having non-violent felonies. That is, now it requires, the only way you lose it is with violent felonies and misdemeanors. as such, there may be people that can actually get their weapons licenses back because either it may have recently been falsely removed, because I didn't notice because it's like hidden in there. The problem is that a lot of legislation got written, but there's so much of it and it's hard to like, there's so many documents that there's little lines that are easy to gloss over, you know, unless you're looking for it.
I'm gonna have to spend some time just pulling up legislation and looking at it then.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've spent my entire time just talking to people.
No, this is good. I think what you've identified is, at best, the gangs will always maintain the material, and there can be zero expectation that material is ever going to really be acquired outside of it, because fundamentally, if there is a constant, people are going to rob sanitation regardless. And
sure.
Unless it's making insanely higher amounts of money, why, even if you're getting hit 10% of the time, why deal with the headache? Why not just go work something else? You know?
That's the sentiment that I've heard from a lot of people. But so moving on from that, I've spoken to a lot of businesses that need materials, specifically the mechanic shops. Oh my gosh. So I don't know if this is, I heard that something might be done about this, but the employers around the city don't like, you know, people signing in at night to work. This is really bad for mechanic shops for obvious reasons. And with the lack of materials flowing in, they can't, there are times that the mechanic shops just can't actually fix vehicles, and they're trying to find maybe some way that maybe the cost of materials could be reduced by using old parts from the vehicles that they're fixing or something, to like, because the cost is just too high and there's no materials coming in, so they're unsure of what to do. I've heard a lot of complaints from businesses that either have been existing for a long time or tried and failed about the lack of infrastructure to handle business within their own business.
Sure, could you give me an example?
Yes. So like Milton Motors brought up that, you know, if they need to install turbo or remove it, they'd have to go down to Mosley's and handle it there. And Finley would rather, you know, if you want to get something done, you get it done at one place, which is at his shop. Additionally, places up in Polito or anywhere up north have cited that, you know, driving down to the city to tell the employer that they would like to work and then having to drive all the way back up, and then let's say something happens and they have to drive back down to talk to the employer again, and it's just like the biggest hassle in the world. Which also goes hand in hand with the whole signing it at night. If something should happen at night, even though you were signed in, the employer would like you to come check in with him again, and this kind of prevents them from being able to work.
Yeah, there is yeah, there's a lot of things that I've sort of kicked up the chain. Some of it is kind of in the hands of the feds. Obviously, I have a slightly more pull in that space, but not necessarily enough to know, like, you know, when things may come around the fence. But like, I know this is like a particular issue with like mechanics, like for sure, because if nighttime comes and someone needs a car repaired, they got to come down and go do all that. Even further than that, like these Mosley sales guys, there's a lady named Posey who spends all the time down at the sales shop, but she'll get overlooked by someone who has the rep that comes down and will buy the vehicle for their friend, and then she's out of she's screwed. It's here's where I think things are. I think this entire actually, Mina, where I would like you to think is, could you start up a document in these different areas and what changes you think should be made? And I can propose that up to the feds. I'm thinking that might be the best use of your time.
Absolutely. So I was already working on that.
Oh,
Yeah, and I also some of the people that I've talked to in the city have offered up their ideas, and I've kind of listened to their ideas and tried to refine some of them into something that sounds more feasible.
okay.
It's not finished yet because, like I said, I've spent most of my time just gathering information and not necessarily completely making it into a nice document for you. But I felt like I needed to talk to you sooner than later so I can put my efforts in whichever direction you wanted.
You
if
did.
You just wanted.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah,
No
you did the
problem.
right thing, because I think you're right. I think you saw the writing on the wall, and focusing on this material thing is kind of a waste of time. And instead redirecting like Mosley mechanic, what's the issues? What could change? Mosley, and even if some of those ideas get like shot down, I think having a holistic, here's what makes sense, like not hopefully like nothing too big. If you're able to categorize it even like in some kind of way where it's like small lifts separated by bigger lifts, that could be really good when it comes to how construction reviews it.
For sure. I was kind of the way I had my list going was basically the short-term goals, basically like you said, short lifts at the top, and then things that would take longer.
Oh my god.
Or more effort at the bottom. Because while I think it's important to try and handle the short-term things to make things better in the city in the immediate future, I think it's also important that we, even after your mayorship, and that some of these ideas are at least in the minds of those who can do something about it, because there needs to be a long-term fix for materials. It cannot be left alone like this forever, even if we can't do anything about it now.
Yeah.
The city has to be helped.
Yeah. I
somehow, some way.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I think that also goes hand in hand with maybe a alternative solution for materials. That's probably going to be a bigger lift, but I think that would be quite good.
Yeah, and gang.
Oh, are you good?
Yeah, I was just thinking maybe I need to speak to some gangs about ways that they would like to see getting materials, because as it stands right now, they're kind of the biggest thing in the way, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So maybe finding a way to get them away from sanitation.
Well, so here's a tidbit. A lot of materials are used for putting together mining racks and inside those GPUs, and we are slowly entering into the phase where these individuals need to have GPUs manufactured. With the amount of supply having gone down and the demand going up, not just from the GPUs, but because there's more cars and higher class cars, even if they're given a alternative source of materials, I don't think the robberies are going to stop, because pretty much it's like a beast that will never get full.
I spoke to just a regular citizen who doesn't do crime in the city, and he alone wants 16,000 materials for his own personal use.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my god,
just somebody who's not involved in mechanics, not involved in a gang, not involved in it. He wants 16,000 by himself. That's that. If that puts into perspective how much materials people want in the city.
Yeah.
It's insane. Um, it's not even like, yeah, like I said, I've talked to so many people who just, I don't know. Well, um, is there anything else you'd like me to do besides
I
organize all this into a
no,
document for you? I can
I
probably get a turnaround in 24 hours.
I think that is probably the best for now, and then we can relink tomorrow, and you know, we can recook.
Sounds good.
All right.
Yeah, I'm still gonna keep asking people in the city for anything they need. I've been hearing a lot of, you know, just yapping, just some things that I just you know, they're just complaints that cannot be fixed. But
Mm,
I think it's important to hear any and all of it anyways. 'Cause
yeah.
you never know when something really, really valuable comes in and
Yeah.
gives me a spark of an idea.
Yeah. I think continue to keep your ear to the ground. I think that's the most valuable thing. A lot of these voices, they go unheard, and they don't realize that there's people listening. And
Oh, right. There's one more thing that's very important.
Hmm.
For like 7 hours yesterday, there was no food stalls open. This is like something that I've heard complaints about. People
yes,
starving to death.
I want legislation written that is going to start finding a way to monitor these stalls and ripping them from people's hands.
Yeah.
A lot of these stalls, just quite frankly, are just being left vacant, and it's not right. It's now, I don't know how much of this is true, but I'm also hearing that some of these stalls are like might be circumventing like some of the books, right? 'Cause my understanding is that if you do not keep your stall active, the manager at the Senior Buns Plaza ends up taking it from you. But it may be getting circumvented by people buying their own product.
Right. So I also found that most of the stalls are owned by gangs. So
That I'm not too concerned with, because I think
right,
even
that's
if
no
they're owned by
problem.
them, they're like, you know, keeping civilians hired. But like half
Sure.
of those stalls, I don't think open anymore. It's crazy.
They don't. The problem with the stalls being owned by gangs is when there's gang wars, they shut down. So that's why whenever there's a lot of gang wars going on, apparently there's just no stalls open because they don't want to have their stalls hit, I guess.
Mm.
So that's where some of that problem is. And again, yeah, there have been some people have said that some of the stalls have not been open in weeks.
Yeah, that's so crazy. It's so fucking crazy. I would love to see more stalls open on the other side of the city, to be honest. Like, so that there's more option. Like maybe in like Cyprus.
I agree. I've heard some complaints about people elsewhere, northern parts of the city. I've tried to like visit as many parts of the city as possible and talk to as many different walks of life as possible if anybody wants to talk to me. And oh, right. The funniest stuff that I've heard from people in the city is the South Side gangs very upset about all the businesses and things that exist in the South Side because the air quality is so bad.
Yeah.
They told me they're struggling with their gang wars and they want me to do something.
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. I know exactly what they mean. There's days where things are great, and then there's other days where you just kind of. Yeah, actually, speaking of, you know what I heard recently? Apparently, people are driving around in these vehicles that can't be shot through, and there's like an
Yeah.
uptick in those sales. Like, Jesus fucking Christ, what has the world come to?
I'll make sure I prepare a second document for you to laugh at of some of the comments I've.
Yeah,
like,
please,
I couldn't just
Oh my
not
God.
write some things down.
We're trying to
Some of it's
shoot
just-
each other. Can you find the way?
I'm sorry. It's some of them were just too funny, and I had to write them down. Obviously not really good to send up to legislation to look at, but
Yeah.
you know, worth looking at anyways. But yeah, that's all I have
Okay.
for you right now.
All right.
Tomorrow I'll have a document for you.
Fantastic. Also, when you get a chance, email me your state ID and your full name, and I am going to get you on our board, so you can sign in at the city hall and get paid.
Absolutely. All right, I'll send it to you. You wanted it in email?
Yes, please. Yeah, then I can like
Okay.
copy and paste it.
All right, perfect. All right.
All
That
right.
sounds good.
Okay. Thank you, Mina. I appreciate it. If you need anything, you let me know.
I never need anything. You know that.
All right. Hell yeah. All right. You
Thank
take care.